with this? Well, some of you guys out there may or may not have heard of some recent signings going on in the sport of boxing, and it's all over the place. It's in women's boxing, it's in men's boxing. Some very big signings are going on. Movers and shakers are popping up all over the place. So we're going to start with this. WBA junior middleweight champion Hannah Gabriels has inked a promotional pact with Lou DiBella Entertainment. And for Hannah Gabriels, who's already had her debut in the American market, this really is just what the doctor ordered for more reasons than one. You know, in one of my previous videos, I talked about how Hannah Gabriels needs to
take out the competition,
challenge the other champions that are out there, take those fighters on to further
garner attention,
raise her profile, improve upon what she's already done in that fight with Clarissa Shields. Because even though she lost the fight with Clarissa Shields, a lot of people still liked what they saw. A lot of people still became enamored with Hannah Gabriels, who came up for that fight. You gotta understand, there's not a lot of girls out there that are in any kind of hurry to fight Clarissa Shields. Girls at super middleweight and girls at middleweight. Clarissa Shields is not a fighter that a lot of people are in a hurry to fight, and yet Hannah Gabriels, a junior middleweight, didn't shy away from the challenge like they did. She laid it all on the line in a fight that she didn't have very much odds of winning and managed to score a knockdown in the process. She was the first to put Clarissa Shields on her ass as a professional. And in my video, I talked about how Hannah really needs to build on that. You understand that even though she lost the fight, people still liked what they saw from her. And she still is a champion at junior middleweight, so there's plenty of room for growth. There's plenty of room for opportunity, and it appears that Lou DiBella sees what I see, that this fighter is highly marketable, she's skilled, she's experienced, and she's a winner. So with this signing, we can expect to see more of Hannah Gabriels in the American market. You know, in the article, which was published by Women of Boxing, shout out to them for covering all angles of the sport, in the article it talked about how, you know, in Costa Rica, because Hannah Gabriels is a native Costa Rican, in the article it talks about how she gets plenty of exposure and she's very well known and beloved in her own backyard, but she wants to fight more often and she's looking forward to doing that here in America. Thus, this is the step in that direction. And with the backing of Lou DiBella, it opens certain doors that might have otherwise been closed before. You gotta realize, in order to make big fights happen, in order to fight on a regular basis, let alone orchestrate decent-sized events involving other champions like Eva Pietzkowska, other champions like Marie-Eve Decaire, in order to orchestrate those kinds of situations, you need the proper backing. And with Lou DiBella in her corner, that's just what the doctor ordered. Thus, the area of opportunity has expanded. Now,
more things are possible.
Hypothetically speaking, we could see Hannah Gabriels fighting on, let's say, DAZN. Why? Because Lou DiBella co-promotes Tevin Farmer. He co-promotes him alongside Eddie Hearn and Matchroom USA. Thus, there's an area of opportunity there to maybe see Hannah Gabriels fighting on DAZN. But just as well, Lou DiBella also has ties to the PBC. And we know that the PBC is not only in bed with Showtime, but they're in bed with Fox. So there's an area of opportunity there to see Hannah Gabriels fighting on anywhere from DAZN cards to PBC cards. It all depends on what Lou DiBella orchestrates for her. So, you know, I'm very pleased to hear it. For at least 2 years now, I've been talking about how, you know, Hannah Gabriels is highly skilled and very marketable, and she's one of these fighters that all she really needs is the exposure, and the rest will sort itself out because she's got the skills, she's got the look, she's got the talent. All she needs is for people to lay eyes on her. All she really needs is the proper platform for people to get to see her in action. And once they do, they're going to like what they see. So, you know, I'm just very pleased to hear it. I look forward to seeing more of her. And there are more particulars, more details associated with this signing that have yet to be announced. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But for now, I'm very glad to hear that Hannah Gabriels is going to get her shot in the American market. And yet another signing we heard about yesterday that made big news, made very big waves. The signing of WBC and Ring Magazine Super Flyweight champion Sor Rungvisai, the #1 guy in that weight class. He has just inked a deal with Matchroom Sport, and he's going to be fighting on DAZN from here on out. His next fight, which is being reported to take place sometime in either April or May, will be against Estrada. It'll be a rematch against Gallo Estrada. And this signing, much like the last signing I talked about, opens new doors beyond this rematch with Gallo Estrada. If Sor Rungvisai is successful, if he wins that fight,
in April,
a unification match with WBA Super Flyweight champion Cal Yafai is that much more possible because both of those guys are on that same side of the street. Cal Yafai is a matchroom guy, and now Sor Rungvisai is a matchroom guy. So you can see
the opportunity.
A fight like that being made somewhere down the line. DAZN is further expanding its area of operations in the sport of boxing. It's not just limited to glamour weights like, middleweight or heavyweight, you understand? They're now invested in the lower weight classes, and they've got the #1 guy in the entire super flyweight division on their side of the street. So anybody who wants to continue to see Sor Rungvisai in action, well, they're going to have to go to DAZN in order to see him. And there are several scenarios associated with this signing. Several scenarios that aren't even limited to a unification match with Cal Yafai. You got to put your thinking cap on. Backtrack. Those Superfly cards, which were helmed in part by 360 Promotions, 360 being Tom Loeffler's promotional company. Yet another champion in that same weight class also fought on those cards.
Newly crowned champion.
Newly crowned WBO Super Flyweight champion, Dani Nietes. So you hypothesize that with Sor Rungvisai crossing to that side of the street to be featured on DAZN, is it possible that we may also get not only a Cal Yafai unification fight between him and Sor, but perhaps also a Dani Nietes unification fight between him and Sor? It's something that's definitely within the realm of possibility. At minimum, I wouldn't rule it out at all, especially given the rumors that are floating around right now about an even bigger signing than the last two I just mentioned. That Gennady Golovkin is on the eve of potentially signing a 2-fight deal with DAZN, and he also is going to be crossing over to that side of the street. Gennady Golovkin, who is linked to Tom Loeffler, and Tom Loeffler, who is linked to Dani Nietes and Sor Rungvisai. You see the pattern. You can see how the signing of Sor Rungvisai might herald the news of an even bigger signing in Gennady Golovkin. So the question becomes, at this stage in his career, for whatever's left of it,
we just don't know.
Is Gennady Golovkin going over to DAZN the right move for him to make? It being that there's so many other people out there that want to bring him over to their side of the street. DAZN's not the only one that was aggressively pursuing Gennady Golovkin.
Far from it.
But if he decides to go with DAZN, is that the right move? And I dare say yes. The obvious answer is yes, that's the only move. Look, DAZN's got all the middleweight action covered. Every single middleweight world titleist is already on that side of the street. But even if it's not about world titles anymore, if you're Golovkin and it's not even about the titles anymore, what if it's about a rubber match with Canelo? Even if it's about that, well, he's on that side of the street too. Whatever you aspire to do in the middleweight division is on the DAZN side of the street. Thus, if they are aggressively pursuing you, then it behooves you
to go there.
So I dare say that if the rumors check out and the story sticks, if Golovkin is going over to DAZN, that's the best move he could have made. Now I want to touch on something. Ever since DAZN landed in the American market, they made their maiden voyage back in September. They landed in America. And ever since they did, there have been people out there that want you to believe that they're not doing too good.
They suck.
They want you to believe that their subscriber base is low. They want you to believe that it's a shoddy product, that it's no good. And the people that are peddling this propaganda, because that's what it is. It's propaganda. Anti-DAZN, really anti-Eddie Hearn propaganda. The people that are peddling this misinformation to you, you've got to take a step back from all the arguments, all the bitching, all the moaning, all the bickering, and all the crying. You've got to take a step back from that and look at what's going on and ask yourself a question. Does it look like DAZN is suffering?
No.
Does it look like they're not doing too hot?
No.
Because that's what some people want you to believe. They want you to believe that the product is no good, it's a crappy app, the fight cards suck, they don't have anybody. That's what they want you to believe. But look at who they've got. And look at who else they may have in the very near future. Does this seem to you
like they're suffering?
Like an outfit that's not doing too good? When you have not only Canelo Alvarez on that side of the street, but you may also have Gennady Golovkin on that side of the street, and just about every other middleweight champion there is. And that's not even all you got. That's not even all your hitters. When you have a convergence of all these different names, I mean, it should have been enough that the only real marketable pay-per-view attraction left in the American pay-per-view market, Canelo Alvarez, it should have been enough that he went over to that side of the street. That should have been enough to let people know just how good these guys are doing and how good they will be doing in the near future. That should have been enough. But if that wasn't enough, Golovkin might be going over there, and you guys are telling me that you don't think they're doing too hot? Well, you, my friend, are deluded. You, my friend, are likely one of these PBC shows that I talk about in video after video. You're one of these guys who feels like an honorary mascot for the PBC, thus, you feel so inclined to bash all the other gay men in town, even when all the other gay men in town has Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua, perhaps Gennady Golovkin, all converging on the same side of the street, yet you want to convince yourself and others that those guys ain't doing too hot.
Yeah, right.
You gotta understand that these guys are trying to convince you of this, and these are some of the biggest, if not the biggest names in the entire sport of boxing. So you can't take it from them. You can't believe the propaganda that they're peddling when they tell you that this app is no good and they're gonna flop and they're gonna flounder and it's all gonna go under. You can't believe these guys when they say that, because now you may have not only Canelo Alvarez and Anthony Joshua and everybody else, but you may also have Gennady Golovkin on that same side of the street. For a while now, there have been people out there, PBC shows, mascots, that have been trying to tell people that the subscriber base for DAZN is very low. And there's no way that they can continue to stay afloat in this market putting out what they've been putting out. But you hypothesize that if 1.1 million Americans paid the high cost of a pay-per-view to see Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin swap punches in a rematch, if they were willing to pay the high cost of that pay-per-view, what are the odds that they're going to be able, and willing is what I should say, what are the odds that those same people are going to be willing to subscribe to DAZN to see those two same guys potentially fight each other again for a fraction of the price? And to top it all off, that's not even all the content that you're going to get. I mean, it's really a common sense argument. These guys are so far gone and so deluded that
They don't even make sense.
they go as far as endorsing the antiquated and in many ways obsolete pay-per-view model in America that's been price gouging fans for a while now. And they actually advocate against an app that would charge you a fraction of that price for far more content than just one fight on one night. It's a common sense argument, people. At the end of the day, these are all common sense arguments. The average American does not want to pay $75 for just one card.
Nope.
The average American walking down the street does not want to pay $75 for just one fight on one night.
Nope.
That's the truth of the shit. That's the reality of it. That's a part of the reason why the pay-per-view model is becoming more and more obsolete. One, the hefty price tag. Two, the alternative of watching those same pay-per-view events free of charge on illegal streams. Thus, if an alternative rolls around and allows you to see those same fighters in those same big-name events for a fraction of the cost of what you were normally paying for a pay-per-view, well, you're going to like the idea of that more than paying $75 for just one fight on one night. $10 will get you a month's worth of content. That's the truth of it. Whether you like the content or you don't like the content, at minimum, $10 gets you much more content than that $75 would have got you. But that's just it. These guys are cornering the market to the point where they're getting you those pay-per-view fighters. They're getting you those pay-per-view fights. And you're still only going to have to pay $10 to see them. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, it's a common sense argument. The average American walking down the street would much rather pay $10 for a month's worth of content and a pay-per-view event than $75 for just one fight on one night. So, for the critics out there who want to accuse me of caping for DAZN or Eddie Hearn or anybody else, for any of those people out there, you tell me, what would you rather pay for a fight?
Huh?
$10 or $75?
Huh?
Would you rather pay $10 for a month's worth of content or $75 for one fight on one night?
Huh?
And regardless of what your answer is, here's the kicker. The numbers themselves, they won't lie. You might, but the numbers themselves won't lie. It's very hard to sell a pay-per-view in today's pay-per-view market. We just saw a bona fide pay-per-view attraction and a controversial and polarized figure stage a pay-per-view. And the best they could do was somewhere around $400,000. In today's pay-per-view market, the name of Manny Pacquiao and Adrian Broner can only get you about 400,000 buys. If it were 5 years ago, that thing could have easily did 1 million buys if it were 5 or 6 years ago, but in today's market, it's a very different story. Thus, the alternative. This app with all these different fighters on it, yeah, they have the potential to make a killing. So to the critics out there, I'll say this. Perhaps their subscriber base in the beginning wasn't the best, but you guys have to factor in that they had literally just got here. These guys have only really been in the American market since September. But as they proceed signing fighters and getting these big names to cross that street, what you can imagine is if their subscriber base wasn't big already, it's about to be. It's about to get very big. And that's just the reality of the shit, whether you want to accept it or not. Moving on. There was some startling news that broke yesterday regarding the World Boxing Super Series and the participation of the newly crowned IBF champion, Ivan Baranchyk. Fat Dan reported that Ivan Baranchyk was pulling out of the tournament due to money issues. Coincidentally, there were rumors that the tournament was experiencing money issues in the weeks and months prior to that report. And this compelled some fighters to become worried, and apparently Ivan Baranchyk was going to pull out of this thing. But guess what? I can only
deduce,
hypothesize that whatever issues Ivan had with what was going on, they've been resolved, because all systems are a go for Ivan Baranchyk to defend his newly obtained IBF title against Josh Taylor. The Sarlin brothers announced the fight via Instagram, and Mundo Boxing, who works very closely with Ivan Baranchyk, they also announced that all systems are a go. So I can only imagine that whatever issues, whatever financial issues they were experiencing, they must have quelled Ivan Baranchyk and his handlers' worries. Maybe they offered him some kind of an incentive. Who really fucking knows? But at the end of the day, the tournament is a go. The semifinal is a go. And it's good news to me because, look, this tournament,
in theory,
ideally, it pits the best against the best. And it can be very beneficial to the fighters to establish themselves as the best in show by squaring off against the best. For the fans, it's beneficial because it brings you those fights which may normally have taken months and years to make. It brings you those same fights in a timely fashion. So you get to see the best versus the best. Lest we forget, Alexander Usyk became the undisputed cruiserweight champion due to this tournament. You know, I would have been disappointed if Ivan really did decide to pull out of the goddamn thing.
That would have sucked.
That would have been one less world title
on the line
for someone to win had he decided to pull out of the goddamn thing. So I'm glad to hear that all systems are a go. On May 18th in Glasgow, Scotland, it's going down. Taylor versus Baranchyk. And I'll tell you that, look, both of those guys are heavy artillery guys. Both of those guys have their own brand of firepower. It's a close fight. And on May 18th, it's going down. Looking forward to seeing it.